So sadly enough, the sound cut out again. I'm working on that. I'm pretty sure it's something I'm doing. I'm gonna fix it up. In the meantime, this little clip here is kind of an addendum to the Facebook Live that many of you were just watching, or watching, oh, I don't know, about half an hour ago. What I'm going to talk about is grass, and basically how terrible grass is. Now, the grass that most of you plant in your gardens is Kentucky bluegrass or fescue. Now here, that is to say Charlotte, North Carolina, we're on the border of what we call warm season grasses and cool season grasses. Now you could say that both do pretty well here, but the truth is that both warm season grasses and cool season grasses actually do pretty poorly here. So grasses just generally only do okay in Charlotte, North Carolina. Having said that, most people, at least in this area, tend to plant what are known as cool season grasses. Again, Kentucky bluegrass and fescues. Now, the fescues and the Kentucky bluegrass, you may think that, you know, Kentucky bluegrass in particular, because it has the word Kentucky in it, you may assume, hey, that's gotta be a native grass. Furthest thing from the truth. The grasses that we get are primarily European. These grasses are things that take constant care. They take constant care because we want these grasses to grow in what's a relatively unnatural way. What do I mean by an unnatural way? Well, we want these grasses to grow in a monoculture, basically just this big stand of grass. That's not a natural thing. A more natural thing is to have these grasses grow in combination with other plants. What kind of other plants? Well, a big one is this right here, clover. Check out that clover. That's what we usually want, or that's what usually grasses grow with. And in fact, we used to plant clover seeds with grass up until the 1950s. Why did we plant clover with grass? Because clover provided fertilizer to the grass. Clover is actually a legume. So it actually pulls nitrogen from the air. It then takes that nitrogen from the air, incorporates it into the different parts of the plant, and then when we cut the plant, we actually return that nitrogen to the soil, and no fertilization needs to be done. That's actually a pretty sustainable thing, clover plus grass. So why haven't we done clover plus grass since the 1950s? Well, the reason we haven't done clover plus grass is because during World War II, we developed a very interesting chemical. That chemical is called 2,4-D. What does 2,4-D do? 2,4-D knocks out the dicot weeds in the grass while allowing the grass, which is a monocot, to grow. 2,4-D is what is known as a selective pesticide, killing broadleaf plants and preserving grasses. Broadleaf plants include everything from this clover, which we just pointed out, to things like, you might be familiar with plantain, to even little trees that get in the grass, such as if you have a little maple seedling. 2,4-D will take care of all of that, but won't touch the grasses. When this was developed during World War II, of course at the end of World War II we had all this 2,4-D to use, so we used it on our grass. Now, the big grass that we used it on is corn. Now, corn, of course, isn't really a grass, but it's very, very closely related to grass, so we used it on corn. The 2,4-D wouldn't kill the corn, but it would kill many of the weeds of corn. So, of course, we have all this 2,4-D. We end up using it in our lawns, and when we use it in our lawns, it gets rid of all of these weeds, but it also gets rid of clover. And that's when we started considering clover a weed, which it really wasn't. But that's the way we started to think about it. And so we had to start fertilizing our lawns. Adding that fertilizer to lawns meant a tremendous waste of fertilizer, but it also meant that with adding all that fertility to the lawns, we had all this nutrition runoff to places like streams, rivers, and ponds, and that really wasn't very good either, so that was a big deal. When we have this monoculture of lawn, we don't have a sustainable ecosystem. All right, one other thing that I want to point out is that, I talked about all these broadleaf weeds that we're getting rid of. We also were preserving things like crabgrass. Now, many of you think of crabgrass as a weed, and, well, okay, it kind of is a weed, but do you know when and why crabgrass was brought here? Well, crabgrass was actually brought here in the 1840s, and it was actually brought here by the Patent Office. That's right, the Patent Office. Why was it brought here by the Patent Office? It was brought here by the Patent Office as an emergency grain. I mean, you guys know that crabgrass grows in almost any situation. Crabgrass is a survivor. It does a great job during lousy times. So it was as an emergency grain, both for animals and, believe it or not, for humans. Now that I am done complaining about grass, I do want to tell you that this is the time of year to care for grass. If you are trying to get rid of broadleaf weeds, and I don't recommend that you get rid of clover, but if you're trying to get rid of broadleaf weeds other than clover, now is the time to put down pesticides to get rid of broadleaf weeds. You see, most of these weeds are preparing to go into the winter. If you hit them right now, they're going to go, you probably won't kill them, but they're going to go into the winter really suffering because you've hit them with an herbicide. They'll go into winter, they'll die, and the grass will take over. This is also a relatively good time to fertilize your grass, and is a good time to plant your grass. You want your grass to start to establish roots before it goes into the winter. So this is actually a very important time of year for turf care. In fact, in some ways, this time of year is a better time for turf care than the spring. So fall is really a wonderful time of year to get ready. And in fact, next week, certainly going to talk about some stuff in the garden, but I'll also talk a little bit about the fall, and how the fall is one of the best times of the year to plant your trees, and how to plant a tree, and some related factors such as pruning. All right, I'm sorry that the audio cut off before. I hope it's all working now, and I look forward to talking with you all on Facebook Live next Thursday. Take care.